Hi, I'm Starborn. Remember, to be a star, you have to shine your own light, follow your own path, and not be afraid of the darkness, because that's when stars shine brightest. And every year at the start of a year, I do 2 shows that cover events for the whole year. So tonight's show is going to cover all the new moons and the eclipses that occur in 2017. So if you've been looking at our website, Starborn Institute, you would already know that the title of tonight's show is Get Ready, Get Set, Go! And that is because this is going to be a very creative and courageous year, and it's going to require a lot of activity and involvement on your part. And that's because of the 4 eclipses that occur this year. 2 of them are in Leo, and the lucky north node of the moon is also going into Leo, and Leo is the sign of leadership. So a lot of things that Leo rules, such as children, sports, entertainment, the field that has to do with the heart, the back, or the blood supply, or even love affairs, are all accentuated this year. And this is a year when 2 major planets change signs, but they do that later on in the year. So on October 11th, Jupiter leaves Libra and goes into Scorpio. And then near the end of the year, Saturn finally leaves Sagittarius on December 20th and goes into Capricorn, which is the sign that it rules. And so an unusual thing is happening this year to the new moons, and it is that most of them occur at the end of the month. So when I'm mentioning the date of a new moon, since it will be so late in the month, you might want to consider that the things I'm describing will also cover the following month. You might want to keep that in mind. For instance, in January, we have a new moon occurring on January 28th at 8 degrees of Aquarius, and Aquarius rules the future. But the sun and new moon in Aquarius are trining Jupiter in Libra, which does rule partnerships, and Jupiter is a wonderful sign. So certainly the future of partnerships and love and marriage and the law and legal contracts can certainly be accentuated in a very positive way, which is great. But at the same time, new endeavors can be encountering some sort of financial problems, because the sign of Aquarius squares both of the financial signs. And so the new moon in Aquarius is squaring the sign of Taurus and the sign of Scorpio, and those are 2 fixed financial signs, so they have to be a little bit careful at that time. And then there is also the possibility that there can be some sort of quick change going on, and we have to be aware of that too. What does it mean in February? Well, in February, the spring eclipses occur. They're coming a little bit early in the spring, aren't they? So on February 11th, there is a lunar eclipse at 22 degrees of Leo. And under a lunar eclipse, we know that the moon opposes the sun. And so since the moon rules women, we say one woman could go and another woman could come at that time. And there is also the possibility of some sort of nasty surprise that could occur, and that is because both Mars and Uranus will be in Aries, and they will be opposing Jupiter in Libra. And so they will be squaring Pluto in Capricorn. So there is the possibility that a nasty surprise is really not a surprise, and it can be something that has been well thought out and actually planned or premeditated. And so we need to be a little bit careful about that. And then 2 weeks later, on February 26th, there is a solar eclipse at 8 degrees of Pisces. And this is a wonderful eclipse in Pisces, unlike the one that happened last year. Because last year, when there was a solar eclipse in Pisces, it was very harshly aspected. And for that reason, there are some people who might be strong in Pisces that got blindsided in one way and perhaps made some wrong moves, or listened to the wrong people, and they may have gotten sort of waylaid last year. But this year's solar eclipse in Pisces is a wonderful one, because there are 4 planets in Pisces, And on top of that, there are 3 more that are right ahead of the solar eclipse because there are 3 planets ahead of them in Aries. So with 7 of the 10 planets only in these 2 signs, there can be a lot going on. And so while dynamic change can be accented from the planets in Aries, at the same time, there can be a lot of sympathy and understanding going on, particularly behind the scenes, because there are 4 planets under the solar eclipse in Pisces there. And so I think there is the possibility of not only sympathetic support going around a lot and being behind the scenes, but there can also be unseen angels that can be quite helpful. And in fact, there is the possibility of 2 wonderful miracles that could occur. And if they do happen in your life, they could be rather close to home. So you would only have to look around your home or your neighborhood or among people that you're familiar with. And if some sort of a miracle happens and you're scratching your head and saying, gee, how did that happen? It was from an unseen angel. And that really could happen because the Pisces solar eclipse is so powerful. And it's powerful for the good, which I'm happy about. All right, what does it mean in March? Well, on March 28th, there is a new moon at 8 degrees of Aries, and there are a lot of planets in Aries. So there is some sort of new beginning that really has liftoff now and is going to get started in a very positive way because there are a lot of planets in the fire signs at this time. And remember, this is a year when we're sort of getting ready, getting set and going. And this could be a time when that happens because there is so much strength in the action-oriented fire signs, which is good. So a new beginning does get underway in an undeniable fashion. And in fact, there are a lot of new beginnings that are sort of in the pipeline at this time, early in the spring. It doesn't mean that they've actually all begun, but they're getting ready at least, and they're almost set to really begin, and that can be very positive for all of us. Okay, what does it mean in April? Well, in April, on April 26th, there is a new moon at 6 degrees of Taurus. And so, since Taurus is a fixed financial sign, if there have been any previous impetuous, impulsive, sort of sloppy mistakes around, in other words, if people got in a little bit too much of a hurry as they were wanting to start something new, then there could be some sloppy financial mistakes, since Taurus is a fixed financial sign, and that means that plans and budgets would have to be reworked in one way, possibly cut down to things that are more affordable, but that would be all right. At the same time, there could be an infusion of money or assets that can back strong policies, which is good. So this is a time, remember, at the end of April and as we're heading into May, that a lot of heavy work or hard work begins. People will have to be working very hard then. But their hard work will succeed, I'm happy to say. And this is also a time when brute force can actually move mountains. So there's going to be some heavy lifting done at that time, but there will be money to back it up and it will eventually succeed. Okay, what does it mean in May? Well, on May 25th, there is a new moon at 5 degrees of Gemini. And Gemini, you know, does rule communication and change. But this new moon represents change, but it also represents danger. And the reason why is that the Sun and Moon and Mars are all in Gemini at the same time, and that can simply denote that danger can lurk or there can be harm, particularly to young people, which is what Gemini rules. And it's nearing the time when school will be out as well. So there could be danger to young people from broken bones, and that is because there are actually 5 planets in the mutable signs in harsh aspect under this new moon, because Neptune in Pisces is squaring the 3 planets in Gemini, and Saturn in Sagittarius is opposing the 3 planets in Gemini. So young people could suffer broken bones. They could suffer a lot of bullying right now, harassment of some sort. and they could suffer from sudden accidents or from fast objects coming at them, and then they could also suffer from any kind of lung ailment. Everyone could, and so they should be careful about contracting communicable diseases like tuberculosis or pneumonia, and there is the possibility of a rise in cases of lung cancer as well. So we have to be really careful. And this is a new moon where, you know, you have to look before you leap. And then even if you are looking before you leap, don't do it. In fact, you should only proceed with caution at this time. Okay, what does it mean in June? Well, on June 24th, there is a new moon at 3 degrees of Cancer. And because there are 5 planets in the healing water signs at this time, there are 4 planets in Cancer and they're trining Neptune in Pisces, this can be quite a time of sort of getting together. And in fact, this is a time when thrift, you know, being really thrifty, and manual labor, working with your hands, can actually be used to help revive an old dream. So if you've got an old dream that hasn't quite made it yet, perhaps this is a time when you can revive it just by being a little more careful with your money and also by making more things yourself. So this is a time when if you're reviving an old dream, that everyone could help you with it, even children, which is great because that could get a lot of people together. And this is a time that would particularly benefit not only children but students. And so this is a time when I think the next generation sort of steps up to the plate, and we can be proud of them for that. Okay, what does it mean in July? Well, in July, on July 23rd, there is a new moon at 1 degree of Leo. This is the first of 2 new moons in Leo that occurred this year. Remember, I also said there's 2 eclipses in Leo, and the lucky north node of the moon is coming into Leo as well. And so this new moon does represent, since there are a lot of planets in the fire signs, it does denote a time when you not only can be getting ready, but you could be really getting set to work on a project, or you may have already been working on it, and it may be getting set to sort of take off. And if it hasn't done that yet, you would need then to devote a lot of your own passion and your own competitiveness to seeing that something got done. And that something would involve whomever or whatever you really love. And so that's really important, to really back whomever or whatever you love with all of your competitive spirit and your passion. And this is also a time, since the north node of the moon will be in Leo, that there could be someone who becomes an overnight success, but it would have been a long time coming. They would have really earned it. All right, what does it mean in August? Well, an interesting thing happens in August. The fall eclipses occur actually in August, right at the end of the summer. And so on August 7th, there is a lunar eclipse at 15 degrees of Aquarius. And remember, Aquarius rules the future. So because the full moon is there, you could certainly get a good full look at what you want your future to be, and that would be great. But you'd have to be really careful and realistic at the same time, because we know under a full moon that the moon opposes the sun. And so that can sometimes indicate that one woman goes and another woman comes. But this full moon is really under severe duress. And the reason why is that, yes, the full moon is at 15 degrees of Aquarius, but the sun is at 15 degrees of Leo, and so is Mars. And because the sun and Mars in Leo are backed up in a grand trine by planets in a grand trine in fire signs, it simply means that your future could look rosy, but it can be overwhelmed right now. And Aquarius rules rebellion, and it rules freedom. So there could be a sudden rebellion or some sort of call for freedom that is absolutely squelched by a ruthless leader who wants to have total control. So there is a danger, even if your future is looking rosy, it doesn't quite mean that it's going to turn out that way, because there can be other people who could be jealous or greedy or simply want total control. So you do have to sort of watch the things that you really care about and be protective about them at the same time, because 2 weeks later, on August 21st, we have a prophetic solar eclipse at the fateful 29th degree of Leo. And because it is a solar eclipse, and solar eclipses always denote new beginnings, we have to understand that something prophetic is going to be happening, because the 29th degree of Leo is where the fixed royal star Regulus is in the heavens, and that particular star has the brightness of 100 of our suns. It's really bright. And because the solar eclipse is exactly on that degree, and Leo is a royal sign, there is the possibility that a monarch now hands over their crown to a bright new leader. And that could certainly happen somewhere in the world. This is also an absolutely wonderful time for children, love affairs, sports, the entertainment business, and for matters that concern the heart, the back, and the blood supply, all of the things that Leo rules. But it's also a time of boom or bust, and that is because Leo also rules gambling. So this is a time when gamblers lose, big time, but it's also a time when true leaders win. And so if you've been getting ready and you've been getting set, this is the time in August under the solar eclipse in Leo when it is a go. So I hope that you have been really trying to get in good shape, because you need to be in good shape this year to be competitive and to go after your dreams and what you want, and be ready to have them really launch by the time of the solar eclipse in August. So it's going to be boom, because you did work really hard, or it's going to be bust because you gambled on something and you didn't work hard. So that's why it's boom or bust at that time. But this is really a good solar eclipse. And so if you're a person that has love in your heart and you want to go after a dream, or you love someone or something very much, I hope you make that dream come true by August under that solar eclipse, because it's a great one. Okay, what does it mean in September? Well, on September 20th, I'm sorry, there is a new moon at 27 degrees of Virgo. And there are 5 planets in Virgo at that time, and they are all trining Pluto in Capricorn, a 6th planet. So since these planets are in the realistic Earth signs, it means, ooh, we've all got to come down to Earth and really face facts. And because there are 7 planets in mutable signs under this new moon, and they are in a harsh T-cross, because Saturn in Sagittarius is squaring the 5 planets in Virgo, and Neptune in Pisces is opposing those 5 planets. It simply means that this is a time when people who have been kidding themselves have really got to turn around and face facts and be held accountable for their actions. So people will be checking precise details and checking to see if all the rules and regulations have been followed. And if someone has not been doing that, they are going to have to sort of pay up for that if they've been doing anything wrong at that time. So it is an important time for good organization and for being very detailed in your plans, because those kinds of things can work as long as you're facing reality. And so it's a time of accountability, and I hope that things work out all right for the people that have been facing reality and doing their best and working hard. Okay, what does it mean in October? Well, in October, on October 19th, there is a new moon at 27 degrees of Libra. And before this new moon in October, there is a major planet that changes signs, and that's because on October 11th, Jupiter leaves Libra and it goes into Scorpio, where it will stay for a year. And so under this new moon, there can be a treaty or a law or a partnership that is somewhat subject to revision in one way or another. And if it is revised in some way, that's good, because the revision would occur due to financial concerns. And if the revision then takes place, remember, in a treaty, a law, or some sort of partnership, then there is the possibility, since Jupiter under this new moon will already be in Scorpio, that there can be some additional funding that can be applied, or financing that can be applied to a revised treaty, partnership, or law of some sort. And that means that it could be updated in one way or another. And so I think that that would turn out rather well. Okay, what does it mean in November? Well, on November 18th, there is a new moon at 26 degrees of Scorpio. And there couldn't be better planets in Scorpio at this time. The Sun, Moon, Venus, and Jupiter, the 4 best planets in the heavens, are all in Scorpio, and they are trining Neptune in Pisces. So there are 5 planets in the healing water signs at this time, and that is very good, because it simply means that since Scorpio is a fixed financial sign ruling credit, debt, taxes, loans, inheritance, insurance companies, Scorpio also rules the military, the police, and it rules the whole medical field. There is the possibility, with so many good planets in Scorpio, that there will be financing to ensure justice and survival. That's what Scorpio actually rules. So there will be financing for that. I don't know where the money's coming from, but the money will be there for that. And that simply means that there's also a possibility that a shameful wrong can be righted at that time. Remember, justice and survival, that's what it's going to be all about in November. And it will be very positive, for the good. All right, what does it mean in December? Well, in December, on December 18th, there will be a new moon at 27 degrees of Sagittarius. And there are so many planets, 6 of them, in the dynamic fire signs at that time, that there is the possibility that a new beginning could simply erupt out of chaos. And it could happen. And so it's a little hard to tell where that will end, but at the same time, there is the possibility that people can take the moral high ground at last. Saturn will be at 29 degrees of Sagittarius, and they can take the moral high ground at last in order to do something where they have noble intentions to make sure that things are done in a morally right way, which is good. It will be long overdue as well. And then there is also the possibility that, that some sort of deep wound could heal. And that is because 2 days after the new moon, on December 20th, another major planet changes signs, and that is Saturn, which finally leaves Sagittarius and goes into Capricorn, where it will join Pluto. This is going to be real significant for us in 2018, because the last time that Saturn was in Capricorn, which is the sign it rules, so it's very powerful there, was 28 to 30 years ago. But Pluto wasn't there in the sign at the same time, and now it is. And so with both Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn, as we go forward into the next few years, 2018, 19, and 20, we are going to see a real steadying of a lot of basic things that are very important for long-term security. And it will mean that we'll have to work very, very hard. So 2018 is not going to be the quick mover that 2017 is, but you've got to get ready and get set and go first, and then maybe you can settle down in the following year and sort of maintain a steady pace. But this year is a year when you are going to have to really get in shape and do everything possible to be at your very best. So I hope you can as you get ready, get set, and go. All right, thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, you can see the show anytime you want by subscribing to it on our website, starborninstitute.org. Bye.